This is Center Stage, putting lawyers in the spotlight by highlighting attorneys and other industry experts to help take your law firm to the next level. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Center Stage. I'm your host, John Henson, and this week we are talking about how you can leverage technology in your law firm, and I am joined by attorney Lindsey Sharp. Lindsey, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So yeah, we've talked about some technology on the show before, and just different things that you can do. We may hit on some similar points today, but I know I wanted to get an attorney's perspective. Episode 2 we had Maddie Martin from Smith AI. She works in technology. She's not an attorney, so I wanted to get that attorney perspective. That's why we have Lindsey on the show today. And so before we jump in, Lindsey, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody what they should know about you?
Certainly. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Lindsey Sharp. I have been practicing law for approximately, I have to actually look up to count and do the numbers, about 15 years or so, 16. This is my 16th year. I practice primarily family law, divorce, child custody, adoptions. We actually also practice in dependency, representing either grandparents or parents in the dependency system. And I'm a partner along with Deborah Dye, and our practice is located in Melbourne, Florida.
Awesome. So obviously, I wouldn't have you on if you weren't passionate about this. So you've obviously done a lot with technology in your law firm. How has it made your law firm run more efficiently?
How has it not made my law firm run more efficiently? It's probably easier to talk about what it hasn't done for us. I have to say that had we not already been embracing technology and digital platforms prior to March 17th of 2020, we would have been in a real pickle, for lack of a better term. Fortunately for us, we were already using software programs that are cloud platform-based software programs. We had already been systematizing our practice. We had everything in place so that when lockdown happened, we weren't blindsided by it. From a technological perspective, we weren't. The only thing that essentially changed for us when lockdown occurred was just transitioning to everything, court appearances, client meetings, everything, becoming now video-based. That was the only real transition for us, fortunately. We had eliminated paper files. We had eliminated even just our notes and handwriting everything, keeping everything, in sort of a file, everything for us was online. So we easily were able to transition to have the entire team work from home and not miss a beat. So what it has done for us is put us in the position of when an emergency occurs, we're able to pivot from an emergency and make whatever changes we need to make, but we can pivot from that and rebound without a whole lot of problems, number one. Number two, what it has done for us is allow us to communicate with our clients in a much more immediate and effective manner. So we have reduced, the complaint department of I never hear from my attorney. That is essentially eliminated. We have been able to respond a lot quicker. Just in general, we're able to ascertain a lot more critical information from our clients much quicker because we use technology. So it allows us to actually be far more responsive and convert, a lead to a client because our response time, and I don't mean just like a hello, how you doing response. I mean, an effective response has moved exponentially, much more quickly here. So it's done everything for us.
So then, yeah. So what specific technologies have you implemented that have made it so much easier?
The first and foremost is we use MyCase. Now, with attorneys that are in, sort of shopping for digital law firm practice management software, there's generally, I guess, maybe three types that at least I'm aware of. There's attorneys that use MyCase, there's attorneys that use Clio, and then I think there's some other practice management software out there as well. I'm just not familiar with. But so I'm only speaking as a MyCase user. I've never used Clio. But MyCase has been a godsend. It really has. And they're always updating. They're always fixing things. But the updates have been just mind-blowing. And what I've enjoyed about it is I can send them a suggestion and they'll implement it. I mean, how cool is that, right? It's like really, grassroots. But we use MyCase, and that has just transformed everything. In addition to that, we use Microsoft 365 as far as our operating system and keeping ourselves organized with that. But we also have gotten into using programs like Microsoft Sway, Microsoft Whiteboard. We film videos, and we have a YouTube channel that we have used. And the video technology, I think initially I looked at it like most people as, okay, this is me putting content out there as pure self-promotion, like 100% self-promotion. But what has changed is now I use video content even internally to talk to my staff and to do trainings. I may do a training video on something. And in that way, when we have a new employee start, there's already a training video. They don't have to come hunt me down, in other words. And also using it for clients as well, because if an attorney actually sits back, no matter what practice area that attorney practices in, you can probably, as an attorney, come up with like 10 frequently asked questions that any of your clients are going to ask you, no matter what you do. And I mean, like, once they've retained, I don't just mean a consultation. I mean, the basic questions keep coming up. So what's nice is to be able to use video technology, have that video ready to go so that when the question comes up, boom, here's my video response that, so it's much more personable. And I think as humans, we're actually becoming more where we learn more from watching a video than we probably do now from just reading something or reading a message. Yeah. So, I mean, video, Microsoft 365, MyCase, lots of apps.
Yeah. I mean, I know Microsoft has really come a long way. It was a little wonky at first, but I know that they've made a ton of improvements. Google has kind of a similar suite, it's just depending on however you set your business up. Another technology that we've talked about previously, but just, if you're sending a lot of emails and you're sending the same email over and over again, there's actually apps out there that you can just take a short code or a snippet and type that into your email, and all of a sudden it populates that whole email out. So, just super, small stuff like that can save so much time that, you don't even realize that you're maybe being bogged down with. When I guess one of the things that I may kind of perceive out there is there's a lot of hesitancy to kind of implement something new, maybe because you don't understand it, or maybe you're worried that there's going to be you're going to spend hours and hours when, all right, well, I already know how to do all this stuff on paper. I can just throw this in a big filing cabinet. What would you say to attorneys out there who maybe just kind of have that hesitancy? Is it as daunting of a task as it may seem to set that kind of stuff up, to set up MyCase, for example, or is it a lot easier? Do they make it a lot easier than you might think?
To me, the best way to look at technology and incorporating it into your practice. And one thing I should have also mentioned that I just thought of is even our financial software that we use is cloud-based, where we send links to the clients and they input all of the data into, and then it actually does our stuff for us. I mean, it's a remarkable thing. But back to what you just asked me. I think that the best way to approach it is to think in terms of a 401k investment. you invest money into something. You may have a chunk come out of your paycheck, and that may hurt a little bit at first, but you get used to it. And over time, you get used to kind of live on less, and then you see your money grow, and it pays off for you in the end. At least that's the hope. Right. It's kind of the same with technology, in the sense that you have a new program that you're using, and yes, it is going to take you time on the front end to put into it, to truly, number one, learn the software, learn what it can do for you. You just paid great money for this program, learn its functionality. And oftentimes with new software, if there's not its own video, within it, or tutorial within it, hey, you can go to YouTube now and you can put in any, search term in YouTube. Chances are there is a video with some other expert explaining how to do something. I just did that the other day with Excel and came across a ton of stuff out there on how to use Excel. And it was actually easier for me to watch YouTube videos than it was for me to watch the tutorials. Yeah. So if it feels daunting, understand that that's normal. First of all, it doesn't mean you're technology deficient. It doesn't mean you're a dinosaur. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means you're learning something new, like riding a bike. And it took you time to do that too. So just learning that you have to put the time in up front to really discover the functionality and how that software can benefit you. And then after that, once you've made that initial investment, it'll return on that investment, exponentially. For example, with MyCase in particular, when I first obtained MyCase, and I've been a MyCase user for probably about 8 years now, 9 years, it has changed a lot in that time. But I didn't realize that I spent some time over the weekend doing this, that I can run certain reports now, and I can customize reports so that I can better manage my practice, whether it's an accountability issue with making sure we're getting, our cases done, and, we're making progress on cases, to billing, but just it enables you, once you learn it, to be able to make the connections as to how it can benefit you in ways that maybe you didn't even imagine could benefit you. So take the time. I mean, that's my investment. Don't be afraid of it. Go to YouTube, call somebody else that uses it. Take the time on your schedule. Maybe you want to set aside like 3 full days. And I know that seems like a lot to an attorney, but I'm telling you, it will pay off. It will pay off. Right. Put in the time on the front end to learn it.
Yeah. So that's great. And I think, implementing all these technologies, there's so many different ways it saves, attorneys, whether it's time, money, space. You don't have to devote space to a ton of filing cabinets with paper files anymore. So one of the benefits of that is that you can pass those savings on to your clients. How have you done that? Has it resulted in a better client experience? What other sort of benefits has that provided?
Well, absolutely. First of all, number one, you save money because you're not chasing your tail trying to track down your client to get information from your client. So it has eliminated so much back and forth with, for example, prior to using technology, I would interview a prospective client and I would try to remember to ask them everything that I thought that I needed. Invariably, I would forget something. And so therefore, then I'd have to call the client. Well, maybe now I'm leaving a voicemail. Now maybe they're calling me back, but I'm not available. So they're leaving me a voicemail. I mean, the phone tag was ridiculous. So then I would send an email and, maybe the client would respond with what I was looking for, maybe, or maybe they wouldn't. Oh, it took so long. So now what happens is that an intake form now, we have already online. The client completes it with the exact information that we need. We then take the data on the intake form, merge it into a pre-populated template, and there's our document. So we're not charging a client, for example, for maybe an hour's worth of drafting something. Now we're charging them, much less, if at all. I mean, we're charging in the sense of to review it, and in a sense, we're charging to produce a document now, not charging to actually draft a document. So instead of me billing, at $300 an hour for a 1 hour document, preparation, now maybe I'm billing a 0.2. So that's a huge cost saving just with that, because now I'm just making sure that the formatting is right and everything's there and signing off on it. And there we go. So that savings is a big deal over time. If you think about how much drafting work an attorney does in any given case, the fact that it can already be done for you and now you're just producing documents, major difference. Number one. Number two, the ability, and again, I don't mean to be promoting MyCase so much. I'm sure other software platforms have this as well. And there's other things that you can do. I know when I had Google and I was using that, I could do it with Google. But now I can just send a text message to a client through the software. So I'm not using my personal phone. It's not my phone. It's through my software. And so if I'm like, hey, what is little Johnny's date of birth? Boom, there it is. The client can text me right back that without the phone, the phone tag. And then I'm not necessarily billing my client for that. I mean, that's just something that maybe took 30 seconds and now I have it. Now I can move and go about my merry way. So I like that component of it. It saves clients money because we get our work done far more quickly and with more information on the front end. So we're not having to bother them. We're not having to wait on them. They're not waiting on us. I mean, it's been truly a beautiful thing.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, on the surface, it almost sounds like, oh God, you're billing less. So that means you're not making as much money. But the layer beyond that is you actually have more time. Your capacity increases so that you have the opportunity to actually bring in more revenue going that way. And that's, I think, kind of the thing that maybe a lot of people don't realize out of that.
That's such a great point, because that, I think, holds, and I'm going to pick on lawyers. I think it holds lawyers back somewhat because they think, well, now my billables are going to go down. Actually, what ends up happening is that now you have more time available, so that now you can go, okay, now I'm going to schedule a half-hour phone call with my client and, engage with them better. I'm, talk about their case more, talk about what latest issue, especially in family law, there's always something to talk about. So you can actually use that time now to engage with your client and have more of a personal connection. Because in other words, how it used to be is I would call and I'd say, hey, I just need little Johnny's date of birth and where he was born. And then the client would give me that. Well, in my mind, I'm very task orientated. So I'd want to just finish up what I was doing. Well, the client would want to talk to me about whatever was going on that particular day. And so then there's this sort of rabbit hole thing that happens. And then you end up getting off the phone. And now it's, you only allocated maybe 5 minutes for that phone call. An hour later, now you're like, oh, now I have to move on to my next meeting. So the document's not getting done now after all, not till hours later or even the next day. So you actually save your own stress and time, which allows you to make money, number one. Number two, I think that it also allows you to take on more cases. So now you're capturing other revenue because before maybe you didn't have the time. So it's a misnomer. I think it's very short-sighted thinking to think that by using technology, now I'm going to make less money, because the opposite has been true in my experience and so many others that I've talked to.
Yeah. And it kind of ties into that whole delegation conversation that, we've had on this show before, where it's just like, man, the more you delegate, especially stuff that's just not necessarily the core legal work that you should be doing, it's going to free up so much time. And it's one of those things you just have to train yourself and just learn how to let go of. So kind of before we wrap up here, I got one more question for you. For anyone out there who may still be kind of doing things the old way, maybe let's say they already have a CRM in place. Where else should someone kind of start or look in terms of maybe implementing a little bit more technology?
So, there's an expression that, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So maybe you take something that you feel comfortable with just because you want to dip your toe into it and see how it goes. So maybe there is one area that you would feel comfortable in. Let's say that area is, creating a template and creating, a merge field, that type of thing. that actually doesn't require, I mean, there's great software out there, but for most people, if you just have Word, you can create a template within Word. I mean, you can do that. I mean, that's been around for, 35 years now.
Yeah.
So just start with something that you do feel comfortable with and then work up from there. For example, I had at some point set a revenue goal, and, there was the way that I could investigate to see whether I was meeting my target. I could, log into my bank account. I could log into, QuickBooks. I could call my bookkeeper. I could do all of these sort of like old fashioned things. Well, because now I use the technology appropriately and have set it up, I can just click now and I can run a report. Yeah. I can see within a matter of a second where my revenue target is. Before, I used to have to dedicate, maybe 2 hours to sit and try to figure out where am I, where do I compare this month to the same month the year prior, 2 years prior. I mean, that was a big endeavor. Now I can do that with the click of a button. So start, I think, with what motivates you the most, whether it is to streamline client engagement and interaction, whether it's to track revenue, whether it's to create documents and implement systems, whatever I think piques someone's interest. Go that way. And then once you have your interest peaked, it'll make it so much easier for you to be open-minded, and you'll already have sort of a muscle memory for technology that'll help you learn new things so much more quickly.
Yeah. And to your earlier point, I mean, if you're not entirely sure where to start, there's probably a YouTube tutorial that can get you on the right path. So
most definitely. I mean, it's shocking to me what you can find a YouTube video on, and so many of them are so good. I mean, as an attorney, just for example, I was considering exhibits, my exhibit practice for trial, and how I can do better with exhibits. And so one sort of thought of how maybe I can do better led to another, led to me subscribing to a YouTube channel now of a guy that does great videos on, anything Microsoft related. And so it just, one curiosity opened up a whole new approach for the law firm. So just start with what you feel comfortable with, and you'll find it on YouTube, guarantee it.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, we're going to wrap up here with our famous little question that we have here. So Lindsey, if you had one piece of advice to give all the attorneys out there, what would it be?
It would be not to be afraid, and stop saying things like, I'm just not good with computers. I'm just not technology based. I'm just an old dinosaur. Like, stop with that mind programming, because that's what's keeping you entrenched. I mean, we are what we say about ourselves. So if you're saying that about yourself, that is signaling maybe instead that you just have some apprehension, and you just maybe a little scared of the technology. So instead of just saying, oh, I'm a dinosaur, I don't want to learn that. No, I mean, be open to learning it, but just understand that you just may have a little bit of a vulnerability in that area, and that is easily fixable. So don't be afraid of the technology. Don't think that it's, for some lawyers, don't think it's beneath you, because once you really understand it, your practice, even if you're established, even if you think, well, I have no further goals to set, your practice will benefit just by your willingness to engage with the technology.
Awesome. Well, this has been awesome. It's been great. A lot of good info here. Thank you again so much for joining us this week. Everyone out there, continue to rate, review us, like, subscribe, wherever you're getting the show. It's all over the place at this point. Lindsey, thank you again for joining us this week. Everyone out there, that'll do it for us on Center Stage. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. To learn more, go to spotlightbranding.com/centerstage.